Uh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, it is the fantasy football semi-finals, and hopefully you don't need these waiver wire pickups, but if you do, we have them for you here. These are the must-add players heading into the fantasy football semi-finals. We will start at the quarterback position. It is Bryce Young, 7% rostered. It is a good matchup against the Cardinals. After what was a tough game last week in what was supposed to be a good matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. And that was a waiver wire pickup that we suggested. So if you survived, you're probably not super stoked on going down that road again. But I do think that this is, again, a decent matchup for Bryce Young here this week in a bounce back spot after a few good games in a row and now one banana peel against the Cowboys. At the wide receiver position, we have Jalen McMillan, 9% rostered. He has 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. The Bucs offense found another level last week against the Los Angeles Chargers. That was a really impressive game from Tampa Bay, and I think McMillan has the opportunity to take advantage of that as he looks to grow now, facing a vulnerable Dallas Cowboys secondary. Also available on the waiver wire at wide receiver is Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 33% rostered, so we're getting up to the point where he doesn't qualify for this list anymore. 7 targets now in back-to-back games. I think he should have a better game this week, given that I would anticipate better quarterback play with Spencer Rattler, I would assume, getting the start for the Saints on Monday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. And so again, we've talked about the lack of weapons out in New Orleans. MVS has an opportunity to take advantage of a lot of potential volume. At running back, also with the New Orleans Saints, it's Kendre Miller, 11% rostered. Kamara banged up, and you can see now where the path to playing time is for Miller. I think he is a must-own. I don't think you need to go out and just unload all the fab you have left on Kendre Miller. Quite frankly, I don't think there is that guy this week in the 35 and under ranking that we kind of look at here, or 35% rostered and under threshold that we go by on this show. But I think just based on, again, Kamara getting banged up in that game, they may want to keep him for next year and see what you have in this young talent who kind of was buried under the last coach. So I think that there is a real opportunity for Miller to get a little bit more volume, but I think you do have to have him on your bench in case something happens to Alvin Kamara going into week 17. And basically the same situation here. Kenneth Gainwell, 5% owned in the Philadelphia Eagles backfield. I do wonder if they start to wind Barkley down a little bit. We talked last night about how Barkley started to kind of hobble off with a bit of an ankle problem. So we will see if there is an injury scare there that has them pull back on Barkley a little bit. The difference between New Orleans and Philadelphia, obviously, is that Philadelphia is battling for a first-round bye and that number 1 seed, while the New Orleans Saints are just killing time before they get to go to Cabo in a couple of weeks. At the tight end spot, again, New Orleans. This is relying way too much on Spencer Rattler, but Juwan Johnson is 13% rostered. He only gets 3 targets in the last game, but both of his receptions came when Rattler was in at quarterback. So for sure, monitor the New Orleans quarterback situation going into Monday, but I think there's going to be a little bit more volume and just a better offense in general for Johnson to take advantage of when they take on the Packers on Monday night. Also at tight end, Brenton Strange for Jacksonville, just 3% rostered. With Evan Ingram out, he had 12 targets last week. I don't think that's repeatable at all. But he's facing a Raiders team that kind of struggles, despite what you saw from Kirk Cousins there last night. And so I think that you can take advantage of this opportunity. Again, there isn't a whole lot of talent on the Jacksonville side of things. And for Mac Jones, he is a not great quarterback and a young quarterback. And young, not great quarterbacks tend to focus a lot on their tight ends. So a chance, I think, for Brenton Strange to work his way into this conversation a little bit more as the weeks kind of go along here. Up next, it is our defense, and we are again going with Jacksonville, 8% rostered, facing the Raiders. If you watch that game on Monday night, you either have a gambling problem or you needed something in fantasy football. But you could see that offense struggles to do anything when it comes to moving the football. And so I think Jacksonville, while not a good defense that made the Jets look good last week, I do think the Jags have a chance to take advantage of this option. And now this one, it is going to be gross. It's going to be dirty. And this is a only if you are the most desperate fantasy football owner in your semifinals. But the Giants are 3% rostered. They're facing the Atlanta Falcons. And it looked so bad against a Raider defense that didn't have Max Crosby last night. So how can we really feel comfortable with that Falcons offense? And so because of that, I think you can feel comfortable with the New York Giants defense out there, maybe taking advantage of, again, a very limited Kirk Cousins on the other side of the football. So those are some of the waiver wire pickups that I think could help you out in the semifinals this week. Yes, you have to be very desperate to have the Giants. You have to be very desperate to have anyone on the Giants aside from Malik Neighbors. But yes, no, I honestly, like, the waiver wire segment at this point almost feels just unnecessary, because if you are in the final four in any fantasy league that isn't like a 32 team league, you probably have your stuff set, right? And so this now is just trying to mitigate some of the issues that you may have, whether it's an injury, someone getting banged up, or stashing someone away to take advantage of an injury. That's basically where we are at this point. If you are still streaming defenses in week 16, bravo. But odds are you probably stumbled on one along the way that you feel comfortable with. But yeah, no, Toxic, you are absolutely right. It is the most desperate of desperate plays going with the Giants. Although, just looking at here, this has made me think of something. A little bit of daily fantasy look. Do we must have NFL games up yet. Yeah, okay, here we go. There's that. Let's go to this one, and I'll just click on that. We're not actually doing a team here. I want to see, sorry, I could have explained this better instead of just starting to look at my phone. I want to see what the Giants defense is listed as a daily fantasy defense here. So the Giants are, God, they are the fourth least expensive defense at 2,200. That feels like a bit of a value play. If you are really looking to save some money in daily fantasy, you can get the Giants at 2,400 and maybe take advantage again of a very limited Atlanta Falcons offense. And maybe this is overthinking things a little bit too much.